Remember the Oka Crisis from 1990? If you do not, man, strap in. It is a chapter in Canadian history that is decidedly not boring. It's kind of like Canada's Selma, but with a bigger budget. If you do remember the Oka Crisis, you might not remember it accurately because, I sure didn't. I'm going to share with you two versions of this story, and the first version is from 1990, when I was a kid, cobbling together stuff I saw from the news and snippets I heard from adults and what they were saying around me. And the second version is the grown-up version, the one where I'm an adult and I'm able to do my own research, confirm my own facts, and draw my own conclusions. And let me tell you, the second version is very different than the first. And I'm not just talking about like the Snyder Cut different, but in the second version, the Justice League are actually the villains of the story. All right, let's roll film. Here's version 1. Yeah, I heard some friggin' Indians over there in Quebec are shooting bows and arrows at cops or something. They made a barricade or whatever, making a big stink and breaking the law. What more do these people want? Go back to where you came from. It's illegal, you know. Let's do version 2. The Oka Crisis was not a spontaneous protest. The roots of this story can be dated back all the way to 1761. Now, do not worry, I'm not going to bore you with a long-winded Canadian history lesson. We're just going to go bullet points here. Let's rush through this. Here we go. Okay, so the British soldiers, they win some stupid war against New France, and to celebrate, they claim a whole bunch of land all over Canada, including, but not limited to, Mohawk territory. The Mohawks say, hey, you can't just walk around sticking flags and stuff and claiming whatever you want. That's not how this works. The British say, but we can, and we have, and we will again. We sort of do it all over the world. Funny story, we're actually doing something similar to other Indians in a different part of the world, so we're incorrigible. Good day to you. No, hold on, we have to... I said good day. Don't make me say it again. Honestly. The Brits give this land to the Roman Catholic Church, and the Roman Catholic Church starts selling off parcels of it to other white settlers. All the while, the Mohawks are going, hey, you can't sell something that isn't yours. Yeah, you can't just go selling stuff just because you call dibs. What are you, my ex-wife? The Mohawks make this case to the federal government, to the provincial government, any governor general that will listen, and every single time they're told the same thing. We are not giving back your land. No, we're not giving it back your land. Yo, we're setting up a steeple, we're selling it to white people, and we're not giving it back your... Let's not do this. Let's jump ahead. By the end of the Second World War, the Roman Catholics have sold off so much land, the Mohawks have gone from an area of about 670-ish square kilometers to 6 square kilometers. This is where the community of Kanesatake is located. This is mostly where the story takes place, in an area that is often referred to as the Pines. And this is where the nearby town of Oka, Quebec steps in. It's 1961, and they say, hey, we're gonna build a golf course just sort of off the way of Kanesatake. Cool? And the Mohawks say, no, not cool. You've only left us this little patch of land left, and now you're going to be encroaching on that? No, not cool. The town of Oka goes, cool, got it. You don't want the golf course, righto. We are still gonna do it, though. This is where the Mohawks realize they need stronger laws in place, and they don't want the last bit of land they have left to also be taken from them. They make this case in 1975, 1977, 1985, and guess what? Each time they are told, No! Finally, we arrive at 1990, and Oka once again goes to the Mohawks and says, hey, remember that golf course you guys were super mad about, like in 1961? We're gonna make that thing even bigger, and we're gonna put some luxury condos on it. Very exciting time. And this proves to be the last straw. This small community stands up for themselves, puts up a barricade and says, that's it. After centuries of broken laws, you are going to listen to us this time. And the government did not care for that. They show up with 1,000 Quebec police officers. The RCMP and the Canadian frickin' military rolls in with armored cars, tanks, helicopters, every inch of razor wire the Canadian military has on stock, and 4,000 troops on the ground. Just to give you some perspective of how many that is, you know how many we sent to the Persian Gulf War? 5,000. And this is all for a community with 1,800 people. Wow! No! Canada, hey! Why so heavy-handed? Why so heavy-handed? Are you kidding me? My commute to work is all screwy now. I have to play golf at a 9-hole golf course. It doesn't even have 18 holes. It's humiliating. My son's backswing is deteriorating before my eyes. When will it all end? I said good day. This is turning into one hell of a David and Goliath story, isn't it? Yeah, you would think so. But no, because you see, the majority of the Canadian public actually turned on them. And this is the part of the story I remember vividly from my childhood. Initially, the Mohawks were painted as the villains of this story. So effectively, in fact, that many average, everyday, ho-hum Canadians from the surrounding communities felt very entitled to take to the street by the thousands to protest the Mohawks' actions, complete with burning effigies in the street, yelling racial slurs into the sky, delaying ambulances, damaging relief vehicles, throwing Molotov cocktails at police. Now, why on earth would they do something like that? Well, you see, they thought the cops were being a little too soft on the Mohawks, so they decided to take it upon themselves to ratchet things up a little bit. Yeah, that wasn't even the worst of it. There was a time during all of this when the Mohawks saw the writing on the wall, and there was a looming military assault. They felt like they were going to get mowed down like grass at any minute. So they sent their most vulnerable citizens out in a convoy, women and children and the elderly, away from Kanesatake. And when those run-of-the-mill Quebecers got wind of this, they lined the streets, picked up rocks, and threw them at the convoy, one of which hit a 77-year-old man in the chest, and he later died of a heart attack. Wait, hold on. If there were so many extra police in the area at that time, how on earth does an innocent person die of angry mob rock throwing? Oh yeah, they were too busy. They were over mentally and physically assaulting the Mohawks, interrogating them, ambushing them, betraying their trust. You know, they were super busy.
Who won? How did it end?
This brings us to September 26, 1990. There are 30 remaining Mohawk warriors. One spiritual leader, one chief, 19 women, and 7 children. They had one last gathering around the fire, one last hug, one last proud battle cry to the sky. They put down their weapons, and they walked to the perimeter to go back to their homes. And as they crossed the perimeter, they were once again met with heavy-handed violence, brutality, and excessive force. One man was dragged by several officers, and a 14-year-old girl was bayoneted in the chest, trying to protect her 4-year-old sister. Thankfully, she survived. Corporal Marcel Lemay was not so fortunate. He is the other casualty in this story. He died on the first day there were shots fired on both sides. Now, it is inconclusive still to this day as to where the shot came from and who took the shot, but the Mohawks were blamed for it and repeatedly punished for it. However, I will say this, silver lining though, considering the high tensions for several months of this and the international profile of this story, it is kind of amazing that only 2 lives were lost. Silver lining. 2 years later, all but 3 of all the Mohawk warriors are acquitted of everything. Innocent. All the stuff. See what I'm saying here, guys? This wasn't a group of organized terrorists like you painted them as. This wasn't a bunch of ne'er-do-wells with a long list of priors like you thought they were. This was a community of families, cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents and moms and dads, just a whole community of family that believed in something bigger than themselves, something they believed in so passionately they were ready to die for it. And one of them actually did. And our government spent $155 million to stamp that out. Well, hate to break it to you, Brian, but it didn't work. This chapter in our history was an awakening, a time and a place where something important was born. The golf course and the condos were never built, and the land was never surrendered, even to this day. But let's be real here. This was never about a golf course, was it? This was some John A. Macdonald leftovers, putting the Indian in their place, reminding them that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms has a big ol' asterisk on it. Offer void to natives. Oka was an awakening for a whole new generation of activists, a unification of nations right across this country. And that led us to Idle No More. Idle No More kicked down the door for truth and reconciliation, and that leads us to now, this pivotal moment in Canadian history when we are opening our eyes and dropping our jaws to the injustices done over and over and over again to our Indigenous people. We are seeing now more than ever that this is a travesty and it's time to rectify it. Dude, this has been a particularly long chapter. Can we get to the moral of the story part now, please?
Skip to the end.
Certainly. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what am I asking of you? Only 2 things. 1, we gotta flip the script on this thing and point the finger at the right people, the ones who got this story wrong from the word jump. Right from Prime Minister Brian Mulroney to the mayor of Oka to the shirtless guy in the street throwing rocks with no regard for human life. Top to bottom, soup to nuts wrong. I'm sure you guys have heard the expression, the right side of history. Well, it's been over 30 years, gents.
Get there faster!
2, we have to stop this all too familiar storyline storyline. Don't be the kid that has the wrong story click-clacking in his head for most of his life. Be the adult that looks beyond the headline, digs a little deeper, and finds the nuance and humanity. Every story has it. You're allowed to be angry. Just make sure your anger is pointed at the right thing. In other words, bone up or shut up. Both are great options. And finally, to the Mohawk Warriors, thank you so much for remaining resolute against all possible insurmountable odds. May your 78 days of incredible resilience resonate for 7 generations. Miigwech. And whoa!